The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
If you like Fred White and a Football Friday with Fred, click on the like button right now, as Fred White will join us. We always look forward to the VFL taking a few moments, and we'll talk some Citrus Bowl and motivation. Fred is part of a program, part of a team, part of a group of players that were sometimes uber motivated to play in a bowl game and sometimes weren't. So we'll discuss that, and we'll also discuss the potential race baiting that went on in a recent recruiting battle between Tennessee and Colorado that I know you're very familiar with. We'll also talk some recruiting. By the way, the Florida Gators are blowing up, absolutely blowing up, to the point that I would consider making a change today. And I know that this is not a good time to make the change. Derek Dooley, but they are losing players left and right, and this is not after year one, or this is not like Billy Napier just got off the plane. This is a little bit forward in time, and Billy Napier is really, really struggling, but at least he's detail-oriented. That's all we heard about him when he got the Florida job. So we've got a lot going on, and as always, we'll close the show with our 5 favorite minutes, and we go to you for your topics and what you want to talk about, because we love growing this community and we love you being a part of the show. And also be sure and support our sponsors as well, because they're a big part of what we do. And every person we endorse, we've done business with, or would if we need their services. So certainly would urge you to support the various businesses we have, and we absolutely love them. I love Caleb Calhoun as well. Caleb, how are you, sir, heading into this weekend?
I am good. It is officially, for those who are Catholic, a happy Immaculate Conception Day. Apparently, today's the day you have the feast to celebrate the Immaculate Conception. I gotta say, not anti-religious or anything like that, but if my wife was a virgin and came to me and told me she was pregnant, I'd be like, I don't believe anything you tell me after that.
It would be troublesome. Also want to say, I think this is yesterday was the first day of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Yes. Or as one football coach once said, happy Chanukah? No.
Please tell me which football coach said that.
I can't do it. I cannot do it.
Football IQ. There's that football IQ.
Yeah, I was in a production room, and I was the guy in charge of handling his voicing for something. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it was Happy Chanukah. I actually texted. I always remember that because John Wilkerson was there too. And I texted John about it. And I said, do you remember who said that? And he said, I think it was. And I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm going to get right to today's tough question. And, John, I think, got a little giggle as he was laying in bed last night as well, because he's got an early morning there on the Sports Animals. He does morning. So welcome to the program. Hit like and subscribe. And let's go ahead and get to today's tough question. And we're going to dive right into what is suddenly a very busy month on the college football calendar with the transfer portal and Cruton. A little bit of that as well. Today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
I'm going to tell you exactly what Tennessee has to have in this class that is good but not great, and frankly, a little bit disappointing, to be real honest with you. What they have to have in this class to make it a good class. I don't know that great is within their grasp. I don't know that they could possibly be great. By me, great is top 5 in the nation. To me, good is top 10 in the nation. As of last check, Caleb, Tennessee standing around 12. Is that right?
Correct. They have fallen to about 12.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what they need. It's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Over 40 years of experience in his office, best prices, best service. It's just that simple. Andy Mason, realestate.com. You need a really good tight end. I'm going to tell you who I think they're going to get. They need another receiver. He doesn't have to be elite, which Brew McCoy would be elite one, because I'm thinking that Brew McCoy's coming back based off what I've heard. And I'm going to be realistic. I think that's it. And I would call this a good class. Now, that's not to say you wouldn't add a 5-star offensive lineman like Seaton. I'm not turning those guys down. But those are the 2 positions, and we'll get to some names, that I feel like Tennessee has to address for the 2024 season. I'm not talking about 2025, Caleb. Then offensive lineman galore, okay? You can take as many offensive linemen as you want in this class. You can take 2 or 3 more, and that would help for 2025. But just for 2024 and having the best season possible, what does Tennessee have to do in this class via recruiting, which I include now, just for verbiage sake, the transfer portal as well? But what do they have to do?
Okay, so you're including the transfer portal.
To me, let's make that an off the hook sports rule. When we talk about recruiting, it's both the same thing. I'll say high school recruiting if I mean high school, because it is basically the same thing.
I think they need a couple of defensive backs. I actually don't think they need another receiver, honestly. I think they're, even without Brew McCoy, I'm pretty high on Mike Matthews, the freshman coming in as a 5-star. And I think with Mike Matthews on one side, I think Caleb Webb or Chaz Nimrod is capable of playing the role of Ramel Keaton on the other side next year.
I agree.
So I think they're actually fine at receiver. I agree they need another tight end, and they need a couple of defensive backs. And you're right. If there's a 5-star anywhere, take them. Like, for instance, Walter Nolan. I'm not sure they need more. They have depth on the defensive line, but that doesn't mean you don't take Walter Nolan if you can get him, because it's like the NBA draft day. They're always like, do you draft the best player to fill your needs? Well, it depends. But if Michael Jordan's in the draft, I don't care who you have. You take Michael Jordan.
Agree. You're not taking Sam Bowie. And I mean this from the perspective of bare minimum. In other words, we're not having the discussion of, they've slipped to 18th because some teams have passed them in the recruiting rankings. So, I mean, this is bare minimum. They would, of course, take other guys. They would take Walter Nolan. There's some other names I want to throw out there that I think are a real possibility as well. There has been some chatter, and On3 has reported this, so I want to give credit to them, that possibly a couple of guys in the secondary might look elsewhere. I don't know. Nico Slaughter is one that could possibly do that. That doesn't make an incredible lot of sense to me. Tamari McDonald would be another. Would those be significant losses for the Vols if that happened?
They could replace them. Look, Slaughter struggled when he had to fill in for Tamari McDonald this year. Let's be honest, Dave. And I know we had a lot of hype. We both believed in him highly, but he's just not lived up to the hype to this point. So I don't know if that would be I think that would be a big deal. You can replace them with a couple of guys. I think defensive back is where you can go get names in the transfer portal. I will say this, since you mentioned offensive line at the beginning, I think you and I are both of the same mindset that you can't rebuild your offensive line through the portal, right? You have to do that on the recruiting trail with 4-year guys, don't you? There's no way you can just go plug and play all 5 new offensive linemen in the portal.
I think we've kind of learned that, haven't we? We have seen Tennessee try to do that with Andre Keurig, who looks the part, but something about being mean and being nasty. And you don't know that unless you either instill that into a guy or you learn that he has that as an underclassman and then you continue to develop that. So I tend to agree with you. I don't know that there's an offensive lineman that could step in and be a transfer portal guy. I'll throw a name at you that started a lot of games. He was a junior college player, but Albert Toina, who you mentioned yesterday, coincidentally, he came in and played, but I felt like he was just okay, and Tennessee depended on him to play. So if you get yourself in a position where you're having to depend philosophically to expand your point, if you have to depend on offensive linemen in the transfer portal, you're not going to have a great offensive line. Fair?
Yeah, exactly. You're not. You can maybe fill one spot. I think generally tackle, because again, I've talked about this. There ain't a lot of development to playing tackle. You can either knock out the guy in front of you or not. It's pretty much that simple. But even then, Gerald Mincey, he wasn't ready to go when he came to Tennessee in 2022. He needed a year. Now, luckily for Tennessee, he came out of the transfer portal, but he was a redshirt freshman, so he was so young that they took him as a long-term project. Honestly, not a guy to plug and play immediately. John Campbell and Andre Carrick, they took as plug and play guys, and Carrick wasn't ready to go. And Campbell was solid at left tackle. I'm not going to give him elite status though, by any means, at left tackle. So yeah, I think you have to. Who are Tennessee's best linemen? Who does Tennessee need back? Cooper Mays and Javonte Spraggins. They've been in the system for 4 years. They've been at Tennessee for 4 years now. And it's funny, we're going to talk about Jordan Seaton a little bit later, but I think even Dion knows this because he said, we all know the thing that held Colorado back was the offensive line last year. Notice Dion's not targeting linemen in the transfer portal. He's trying to get them on the recruiting trail. And you have to get linemen on the recruiting trail if you want to rebuild your offensive line. That's a big deal. And only, to be fair, to Josh Ward's point yesterday, only Derek Dooley thinks you don't need to do that. So
fair point. Now, also, we'll credit on 3 for saying it feels like Jalen Wright has played his last game as a Vol. Same for Jabari Small. So can I put an addendum if that's the case? And we don't know that. I haven't heard that. So definitely want to credit them. But if that's the case, then you want to put an addendum on there that Tennessee needs to pick up a running back, or do you feel good about the running backs that Tennessee has on campus or has on their roster?
They got Peyton Lewis coming in, and they have Cam Selden still there. You guys are all telling me about Dylan Sampson. I have issues with his pass protection and his vision. And it doesn't matter how athletic you are. If you can't see the hole, you're not going to be useful at running back. Am I right?
No, and I will say this too. You and I disagree on that. I like Sampson a lot. So I don't think he's an every down back because of his size, but I like him a lot. Let's fit a couple of more names in here. So you mentioned Walter Nolan visiting Oregon. Guys, the fact that he went to Powell High School or has ties to East Tennessee is not going to factor into this. Walter Nolan this is going to be a bidding war just like Dante Thornton. So whatever the amount is, you go plus $1 and you're probably getting him. So is Tennessee willing to pay that? Does Tennessee have – here's another question. Does Tennessee have the same leverage and ability to pay that after an 8-4 season? It's a lot easier to go out and ask your boosters, hey, can I have some cash for this and that whatever after the season that Tennessee had in 2022. It's a little bit more difficult this year. And then Juice Wells, I think, should be a significant target. Let me ask you. You can have Juice Wells or Walter Nolan. Who you taking?
Walter Nolan. I'm not even questioning that.
That's
not even a question. Easy. Yeah, and I wanted to, because you mentioned tight end. So Justin Jolly is out, not happening. And it looks like Tennessee, you mentioned Bauer Sharp yesterday of Southeast Louisiana. He's in play, but now Tennessee is targeting Holden Stays, the tight end transfer from Notre Dame. Caleb Giroux has an article about that. I believe he's visiting this weekend. Now, based on what we saw with McAllen Castles last year, I think you and I are both like, go for the Southeast Louisiana transfer, not the Notre Dame transfer, because the Notre Dame transfer is transferring for a reason. And the Southeast Louisiana transfer is probably proven himself more.
Well, I told you the UConn kid was more of a Tennessee end than it was. They moved on. Now you can argue whether or not they should have. And I know some people on Twitter pulled up some clips of him playing Tennessee and playing throughout the season. They're like, how could you turn this guy down? Well, the bottom line is they need a very developed player. And more of the blocking type of guy that you mentioned yesterday. I completely agree with that. And he doesn't look like that guy. to me. So I would say that Tennessee is going to end up landing a tight end. Obviously not going to be the UConn guys. He decided not to visit. Portions of the program brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for the LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. They're in Knoxville. They care about you, and they're absolutely phenomenal. ccteyes.com. ccteyes.com. Hey, kids, Florida's blowing up. In case you haven't paid attention at all, and we like to speak to the SEC crowd as well as the Tennessee crowd, Trevor Etienne has entered the transfer portal. He's the brother of former Clemson running back Travis Etienne, led the Gators in rushing touchdowns this season with 8. Second on the team with the rushing yards behind Montrell Johnson, who had 817. But he is not the only one. 14 players have entered the transfer portal since it opened. And we're talking about some key players as well. Boy, Florida could blow up here. And Florida could be on the verge of what Tennessee went through in their terrible, terrible decade. It would not surprise me at all because I never liked the Billy Napier hire. I hope you could back me on that, Caleb. I honestly can't remember if we started working together at that time or not. I never liked the hire. I thought it was a bad hire. I think it feels a lot like, without the sociopathic tendencies of a Butch Jones hire. I think Florida's on the downtrend. I think they should actually consider replacing Billy Napier like now. And I know now's a crazy time. And you could get yourself stuck in a Derek Dooley situation like when Lane Kiffin left suddenly. It was bad timing. But how much worse can you do with somebody else? Or, goodness gracious, I mean, throw a lot of cash down for Urban Meyer to come back. Just kidding. But I don't like the trend where Florida's going with Billy Napier. And I think that's good news for Tennessee and the rest of the SEC East. Or there won't be an East anymore. The rest of the SEC.
Are we sure that these transfers aren't transferring because of the recruiting class that Billy Napier's bringing in, and he's kind of making it very clear he's going to start all the freshmen and newcomers that transferred? Because they do have the number 6 ranked class right now, and it would be 3rd in the SEC next year.
Well, that's what I wanted to dig into. It sounds like to me that, and I spoke to someone with very, very close ties to Florida last night. And from his perspective, they've gone off the rails. That roster has gone off the rails, and they lost players. But does Billy Napier have some sort of mastermind idea? Possibly. But at this point,
those details, man.
You wouldn't, detail-oriented. You wouldn't turn Etienne away, though, would you? You wouldn't tell him to cruise on.
I doubt it. No, you're right. The players that are hitting the portal makes it more alarming. Look, I think Florida, I said this a long time ago, and I'm going to take big picture here real quick. When you lose control of a program from a discipline perspective, it doesn't just hurt the coach running the program at the time. Dave, you know this because you covered recruiting for Tennessee. It hurts the reputation of the program long after that coach is gone. I mean, not just Fulmer with Tennessee, but then Lane Kiffin having a class that, like you said, had more felons than SEC starters at the end of it. That left a stain on Tennessee for a while too, and Tennessee couldn't recover on the trail. What Urban Meyer did at Florida took not caring about discipline to the most extreme levels we've ever seen in football. I mean, it was insane how little he cared. I think in the community of Florida, where they obviously get most of their talent, from Miami to Tallahassee and everybody in between, families and parents realized the reputation of Florida by that point was a school that's not going to discipline your kids, and your kids might get wrapped up in some really bad stuff if they go there. And I think there has been hesitancy on Florida kids to go to Florida because of Urban Meyer, and I think it still lasted a decade later. Notice Miami has a top 5 recruiting class, Dave. Did you see that? Florida State has a top 5 recruiting class. When has Miami, Florida State, and Florida all been in the top 6 in recruiting rankings? Usually one is left out, right? Of the 3?
Yeah, usually. And it's usually been Miami lately. I would say this too, though. Let me play off your point of the discipline issue with Meyer. That might have kickstarted it, but it's been the Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen, Will Muschamp fiasco. I mean, you got to think, if you're 18 years old and you're looking at Florida, Urban Meyer was last the coach in 2010. So you don't
can steer you, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the parents, are they going to steer you to Florida 9 times out of 10? Usually you have to have a tie there. If you're a young man, what's the cooler program? Is it Florida State right now, or is it Florida? It's Florida. I mean, I'm sorry, it's Florida State. It's not Florida. Yeah, so you don't even have to go as far back as 10 years. You don't have to go as far back as 10 years. You can just go back to the past few years. So yes, that might have kickstarted it with the way Urban Meyer ended it, but it's just been bad recently. And I think Tennessee went through that same thing with prospects and recruits a few years back. I think they're just now getting over that.
Well, this was the problem with the Dan Mullen hire too. Dan Mullen, one of the reasons it was said he couldn't recruit, because I always found that a little weird, because the thing that threw me off, Dave, I remember the Spurrier years, you do too. You don't have to work that. Spurrier didn't really try to recruit in Florida and still won, because it wasn't that hard to recruit if you're a good coach schematically, because then you could just get guys in your backyard, right? You're in Florida. So threw me off that Dan Mullen had such trouble. And then I realized, I thought, you know what? Dan Mullen was tied to the Urban Meyer administration, or to the Urban Meyer coaching staff. And I think that again steered kids away more than they usually would be steered away from Florida. And so you're right. I think Billy Napier is I wonder where this is going, because Billy Napier, according to every source I've heard, particularly in Louisiana, I'm not high on the hire. He seems like a good guy. He seems like a nice guy. And I think players like him.
Nice guy.
You gotta be a little cutthroat. I agree. He's got like the Sam Pittman thing. I mean, because one of the things was I'm just going to tell you a story about Billy Napier that I'm going to give him some credit for real quick. When he was at Louisiana, he had a lot of offers after his 3rd year there. And he turned down a lot of them because he's just a good guy. And he made a promise to the players that I'll stay there for 4 years. Okay, great. But being a good guy is not actually going to take you to the next level. And I think that's going to hold Florida back for a while. He's not cutthroat enough.
Portions of the program brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best in sports memorabilia. Go to facebook.com, Sports Treasures TN. Again, Sports Treasures TN. Before we get to Fred White, as far as the near future, let me just ask you this. What program should Alabama and Georgia be concerned about in the SEC? I guess it would be Texas. Are there any current SEC teams now with Florida, I believe, with a bad coach at the helm? Are there any other programs that you're really worried about if you're the preeminent programs like Georgia and Alabama?
No, because LSU just recruits Louisiana and nobody else really tries to go there anyway. I wouldn't be worried about Texas, honestly. Alabama and Georgia don't really go into Texas to get talent, and Texas talent, I like I said, is somewhat overrated if you look at it and how it pans out at the college level. So I think Alabama and Georgia are going to be fine with those. If anything, I would say maybe Auburn, because Hugh Freeze is a good coach, but I would never send my kid to play for Hugh Freeze. So
represented by Banks and Jones, play to win. Go to banksandjones.com. We're going to visit with Fred White. Motivation for the Citrus Bowl. What is it? The former Vol VFL Fred White. He's legendary. Joins us in 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, off the Oak Sports.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, BanksJones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I love this guy. Love the Football Friday with Fred, and Fred White joins us now. We always love to visit with Fred, and Fred's appearance is brought to you by our friends at Herald Group Security Solutions. I'll tell you more about them here momentarily. Let me bring that guy in. Fred, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Dave. How you guys doing?
Never better. Never better. We haven't talked in a while. I want to get into this Citrus Bowl thing, but your thoughts on, we talked about this yesterday, and I would really like to get your take before we really dive into the Citrus Bowl and the motivation behind that. And that is as far as Joe Milton and him playing in the bowl game. It's different than it used to be. You guys showed up and played.
Uh-huh.
But now it's more acceptable to opt out of the bowl game. So in general, just what are your, as a former player, what is your opinion of a player that might skip a bowl game in order to move on to the NFL?
It's kind of become the norm. And I don't know if I have an issue with it as much as I used to. But back in my day, we played. We played the game. And it was your last opportunity to play college football for your university and with your teammates, man, that you won't ever get a chance to do again, you know? But I cannot – times have changed. And that's the part that's different now. Times have completely changed where you have to accept it. You know what I mean? You have to accept it now. And so I would love to see him play his last game, you know, play with his teammates. But you look across college football right now, there's going to be a lot of kids that won't play and banking on that NFL, you know, opportunity, those type of things. I get it. It's more of a product now than what it used to be. But I would like to see those guys play their last game. I think the bowl games would be more meaningful if they did.
Now, I agree with you. I would too. I would like to see it, but I do understand the business decision side of it. Fred's appearance brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, making your children safer one school at a time. And we just had an issue happen, okay? So we're in a time where security is paramount. And you need to know that your children are safe and your workplace is safe. So go to your school administrator or your administrator at work and say, reach out to Herald Group Security Solutions. These aren't just security guards. These are trained individuals that oftentimes served our country in the military. So that's heraldgrp.com, Herald Group Security Solutions. Fred, I don't want to get myself in trouble, especially since I know you could probably take me. if we got in a rumble. I didn't know how motivated you guys were to play in that second Fiesta Bowl after winning a national championship. What was motivation like in that game when you guys were hoping to play for another national championship and to win two national titles in a row, but it didn't play out that way? How difficult is it to get up for a game that is not what you had hoped for?
You know, Dave, I don't know about anybody else's motivation, but I felt like I had to play one more game with my teammates. And that's, like I said before, I do feel like some of my teammates might have not played in that game thinking the same things. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, man, I'm coming out here to try to win every game I have opportunity to win. But I look at it from a standpoint of, I got it. Some guys got injured in the game. Well, why go back in, right? Well, if you're injured, it's injured and hurt, right? If you're injured, usually during the middle of a season, you're still gonna play. You're not gonna play. But if you're hurt, you'll still go. If that makes sense, right? Injury means you might be done for the year or something major. If you're hurt, hey man, everybody hurt. It's a long season. Everybody's hurt. So I did see a few guys get injured or get hurt in the game. I'm thinking, dang, I know they're coming back. They didn't make it back in the game. They kind of was. it felt like, well, hey, you know what? This is it. This is our last. This is our last go round. This is all we got. And I saw some young guys in the game, and I'm thinking, this is not it. But that's what we were left with. You know what I mean? And it was kind of, it did kind of hurt that we weren't playing for a national championship when we thought we should have been. So it does lose. You lose some motivation for it, but I just feel like me as a person, every chance I have opportunity to go on the football field, I'm going to go give it everything I have regardless. You never know when your last play is going to be. You never know if you're going to ever get another opportunity to play the game. And for me, professionally, that was pretty much, that was it.
That's true. I mean, it's not like you can go play backyard football like you can backyard basketball or something like that. Caleb, way different. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so Fred, do you think part of this happened? You talked about how you wanted to play. Do you think what maybe helped? Because as you know, a lot of the contributors, a lot of the major players on that 99 team and the 98 team were part of that 97 recruiting class. So all they knew was Tennessee winning back-to-back SEC championships and a national title, whereas you were one of the older guys. So you were on the two Citrus Bowl teams in 95 and 96, which I'm sure, even though you were younger at the time, do you think it helped you just from a culture perspective, because you were on the 96 team that, let's be honest, that 96 team, they did not want to be in the Citrus Bowl, but they played their hearts out in that game.
It had nothing to do with any team I played on. It's just who I am as a person and what I was raised on. You give everything you got regardless. Whether you think you're going to win or lose. I never walked into any game and thought I was going to lose. That's just my mentality. Plain and simple. And from Little League, from the time I touched the football field until now, today, I don't ever walk into anything thinking I'm going to lose. I'm going to win every opportunity. Plain and simple. So I don't care. Like, it didn't have anything to do with what team I played on. It had to right here. This. I got blood running through my veins. I'm not going to embarrass my grandparents. I'm not going to embarrass my mom. I'm not going to embarrass nobody with my family name because I'm not giving it my all. Plain and simple.
That's pretty strong. Derek on our message board. By the way, Fred was pointing at his heart for those on an audio platform. Derek says Fred's generation cut from a different cloth, period. And Derek looks like a younger guy. So Derek giving us Gen Xers a shout out. Fred, is it a generational thing or is it just a person-to-person thing?
I think it's a person-to-person thing. Everybody has a different motivation for what they do, why they do what they do. Some people are just born good at what they are and that they don't have to work hard for it. Some people have to bust their butt for it to get it. And it's just different, Every player is motivated in a different way. That's why I coached high school football. in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it was CAK, Christian Academy in Knoxville. I had the defensive backs. You got 8 different players, right? 8 players that you got to motivate completely different. None of them the same. You can't motivate them the same way. They're not the same people. But you got to be able to realize which player is what and what makes this guy go. If it doesn't make him, it may make him go, but make this guy cower. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to learn who your player is and have a relationship. That's from recruiting. That's from coaching. All those type of things. I don't like coaches who, this is my system. This is what I do. So you got to just do it. If you don't fit in it, you won't play. Hey man, every player is different. You couldn't coach me the same way you coached Deion Grant. You couldn't coach Dwayne Goodrich the same way as you coached Steve Johnson. All different people. That was the one thing I felt like Coach Ramsey did when we were at Tennessee. Coach Chavis did the same thing because he had guys from all over the country, different personalities.
Yeah, my Caleb's the same way. As the editor of the site, he has to call Caleb Drew and say, "Can you do something on recruiting?" And Drew's like, "Absolutely." And then when he asked me to write a column, he has to dog cuss me to get me to do it.
I do not. But I will say this whole, because y'all try to do the generational thing. You know, I challenge people to drink golfs a lot, and Gen Xers never beat me. So they all quit. So
oh Lord, Fred, back in our day. The Eric Berry trip. All right, Caleb, you got something else to talk about, Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb, you wouldn't have won that one, I guarantee.
I can beat all of y'all. All right, y'all see the red beard? Y'all see the red beard? There's Irish in my family.
Those are my wet days. We're not going to talk about that. This is an energy.
Caleb, we had Irish, we had tequila, we had everything in us too at the same time. Yeah.
Motivation for the Citrus Bowl, other than going to Orlando and getting hammered.
So I wanted to talk, and not hammered on the field, obviously, but yes, hammered. Us three getting hammered together. I think I'd win. But okay, so Fred, I want to talk a little bit more about bowl opt-outs, because this wasn't technically a bowl opt-out for you guys, but sometimes I wonder if they can help teams get ready for the future, because Peyton Manning didn't opt out, but he obviously couldn't practice with you guys in '97 for the Orange Bowl because of how banged up he was. Didn't those practices really help T. Martin when it went into the start of the '98 season, or did it really matter? Would it have been the same no matter what?
I think anytime you get extra practice, going to any bowl game, any extra practice you have for the young, that's for the young guys. You know what I mean? They're getting extra practice that other guys who weren't going to bowl games were getting. So I think it was beneficial to all of us. I felt like I learned the defense more as a freshman redshirting during that whole month of practice that we had before we went to the Citrus Bowl. It was like, oh, okay, this is what college football is like. You know what I mean? Like, you learn the defense, you learn the little nuances of what's going on in it, because they have more time to spend with you. You don't have to go to class. All you got to do is go to practice and focus on the bowl game, and that's it. So it gave you opportunity to see. Let me tell you, coming in as a freshman, you got to learn what your coaches want from you, what our defense is, what's the concept of our defense. Well, why can't I do these things? And this is why he want me to do this. You're not just coming in as an athlete. You got to try to figure out the scheme of the game as well. That's what changes. And some guys get it, some guys don't, because the game is not just what you do with your brain and your talent. It's also what you can do with your mind. You got to figure that part out of the game as well. And I don't think I understood the defense until that my freshman year when we go into the bowl game, and I had the opportunity to sit down with coaches, and we didn't have anything else to do but talk about football.
Yeah, good stuff. Caleb?
So going into this year then, do you think it would do those extra practices, do the young guys get more of the practices no matter what? Because I'm like, if Joe Milton did opt out, wouldn't that kind of be helpful for Nico and the future, because Nico would get a lot more of the first team reps for the bowl practices? Or would it matter?
I think you have more time to be able to give them more reps with the ones in bowl game than you do in the season, because you're not playing every week. You don't have to game plan for somebody every week and then get them reps. Bowl game, you got one opponent. You get them reps whenever you can during that time period. I mean, you have more time to do it.
Oh,
because you're only game planning for one team.
Well, let me ask you this, Fred. You've been around this program a lot? Fred goes to practices. Fred is very involved. He was honored as during the season. What was your honor again, Fred? Super Bowl or what was it?
Oh, Legend of the Game.
Legend of the Game, which you rightly deserve. You've been around this team. Do you think they'll be motivated after an 8-4 season when they wanted to win 10? They wanted to do a lot of things that they weren't able to do. Do you think they'll be motivated based off your time around them in the Citrus Bowl?
I think they will be, because here's the thing. Anytime you step on a football field, there's cameras everywhere now. That part wasn't the same back then. People had to actually physically go and look up film. Man, you can see everything everywhere now. Any coach can go watch your film from anywhere now. If you're trying to go to the portal, if you're trying to get to the NFL, they see what you do. So that's your motivation. So every time you touch the football field, to give it everything you have. So if you don't do that, I mean, you're only shooting yourself in the foot.
So if you had to bet $100, you think this team's as motivated as they were for the Orange Bowl last year?
I think everybody on the team should be motivated, because you got to figure out what your pecking order is when it comes to the draft. But not only the draft, next season, you're gonna have some guys, and some coaches may not be there next year. So you're gonna have to be on film showing somebody that you can actually play the game, and they want you to, if you change position coaches or defensive coordinators or whatever happens as his offseason comes up. Tim Banks has already been one of the guys who was thought of as being a head coach somewhere, So who is to say he's going to still be there? Somebody may ask him to come be a head coach somewhere. You got to make sure that you're putting your product on the football. You are your product when it comes to the game. You got to put the best out there every time you touch the field, because you can't hide now. The eye in the sky don't lie.
Can I throw a crazy concept at you, which I'm known to do?
All the time, Dave.
I think there are some players, including upperclassmen, that would be super excited to play with Nico because of what he has done in practice this year. I think it could enthuse the team if Joe Milton said that, hey, I'm going to forego my final game and get ready for the NFL, a la Anthony Richardson last year. Am I crazy to think that?
I say whatever happens. We go whichever one that works. I mean, if he decides he's going to play in the game, great. If he doesn't decide to play in the game, oh well. Either way it goes, Nico's opportunity is going to come next year anyway. So I don't like to do what ifs. I like to do what is.
So we'll definitely see. All right. Speaking of a what is, I want to get to the recent Colorado commitment that Tennessee was in on with Cameron Seton and some things that he had to say. Portions of the program brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company, the original hard cider of the Smoky Mountains. Use the promo code HAT to receive some free swag with your cider order. Available most anywhere in the U.S. Go to tncidercompany.com. tncidercompany.com. Caleb, I'm going to throw this to you because Cameron Seton, a 5-star offensive lineman, committed to Colorado when it seemed like Tennessee was making a push. And he said, Caleb, what? That got you to call me yesterday and got you thinking and got me thinking, and Fred and I talked about it this morning, got us all thinking. He said what that stuck out to you?
Well, it was Jordan Seton. That's his name.
Jordan.
Yeah. Don't worry. I accidentally wrote William Seton yesterday. So I've when you cover recruiting, I just get names mixed up all the time now. But he was on Undisputed, and he said at a certain point why he was trying to recruit other players for Colorado. And he said, why not, if you got that dog in you, I think was what he said, why not try to go play for coaches who look like you? Something along those lines. I understand recruiting. I understand things are said. And I actually don't even have a problem with that concept. I would just ask, that doesn't just apply to Colorado, does it? Because there's a lot. I mean, Maryland, Notre Dame, Penn State all have African-American head coaches too. So that could be used against Colorado in the future, couldn't it? From other schools.
I don't think so because they're not Deion Sanders. I think ultimately the kid went to that university because of the relationship he has with the coaching staff. People think it's because you got the NIL money and stuff now that you can just throw money at someone and that's going to be their motivation. It wasn't the motivation for Travis Hunter. He ended up going to Jackson State because of the coach that was there. He went because of that coach, right? Anybody's motivation is what their motivation is to go somewhere. I chose to go to Tennessee because Philip Foreman was a better character person, in my opinion, than the guys that were at Alabama. Didn't have a good relationship with Steve Spurrier. I like Bobby Bowden, but it was something he said that made me not want to go to school there. I was never going to go to the university that was in Mississippi simply because I watched a movie called Mississippi Burning. And they flew a Confederate flag, and that wasn't even their state flag. I'm from the state of Georgia. It was our state flag. So yeah, I mean, there's a few reasons why people don't go to schools. I understand that, but I can't tell that kid that he can't go to school because that's his reason. That is his reason. It has nothing to do with, I look at it from our standpoint as University of Tennessee. What can we do to change anything like that? Okay, you can't. What you can do is try to find out how to have coaches on your staff that can recruit kids and know how to learn to build relationships with them. Kids are going to go somewhere because of a relationship too, not just because you put some money in their face. That's not going to be. I think people miss that part of it. Yeah, we might have a whole lot of money to give somebody when it comes to NIL, but what kind of relationship he has with the coach that's there? Because if you won't run through a brick wall for your coach, it won't matter how much money they gave you.
Okay, yeah, Dave. Actually, I just want to bring up one real quick.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, but what Fred just said is proof of one of my theories for a long time, which I said that Ole Miss completely fell off the map as a powerhouse after integration because of their open hostility to integration for so many years. And I said it wrecked them as a football program. And Fred, what you just said absolutely proved me right.
Well, they're so dumb so they were still they were still waving around the Confederate flag when I covered a game. So that was in the 2000s. That's really hard for me to believe. So there's a lot of things I want to get in here, but I want to unpack. But first, let me take a step back. Unfortunately, there weren't many black head coaches when you were recruited, Fred. But
no, it wasn't.
I mean, I don't think there was maybe.
I don't know if there was one.
Yeah. Do you think that that's fair for a coach to use that? First, I'm going to take another step back. Do you think Deion uses that and other African-American coaches use that in recruiting?
I don't think he uses it. I think the kid can see that for himself.
Okay. So, so he doesn't even have to mention it. It's just.
No, he doesn't have to mention it. He doesn't.
Now, Caleb brought this up yesterday. And if you would have asked me yesterday when Caleb called me, right before he called me, how many African-American coaches are in the Power 5 or Power 4, whatever we end up conferences, I would have said, quite a few, 10, 15. How many coaches are Division I out of 125 schools? I would have said 30 to 40. I think it's because I don't really see race. I would like to think maybe I'm just ignorant. I don't know. It's a lot less than that. Caleb, what was the number that you threw at me?
The only ones I can name off the top of my head were James Franklin, Mike Loxley, Marcus Freeman, and Deion Sanders. So I think there's only 4 Power 5 black head coaches. Yeah. Now there's a lot of smaller schools, but only at Power 5 there's only 4 as far as I'm aware. Mm-hmm.
How big of a problem is that, Fred? I think that's a huge problem.
Well, I look at it from the standpoint of, I can't tell nobody who to hire. You know what I mean? But true. I think these kids do have an option of where they want to go to school, and that's my thought process is focus on the kids who want to come to your school. That makes the difference to me. If a kid doesn't want to come there, it doesn't matter why the reason. He just didn't want to come there. He went somewhere else to go play somewhere else. You know, I mean, I felt like that's always be the focus. Focus on that. Focus on the kids that want to come here, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there's 15 in Division I. That is unbelievably poor and pitiful. in my mind. The fact that you've got so many people, not just players, but involved with the assistant coaches, all these guys, there's so many high percentages of African Americans, and there's 15 of 128 Division I programs. I just double checked and looked it up. That is stunning to me, Fred.
It is, but I also look at this. A lot of those kids, we knew from the beginning that a lot of kids were going to want to go play for Deion Sanders.
True.
A lot of them, especially kids out of the state of Florida. Deion Sanders is like what Peyton Manning is to Tennessee, Deion is to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Hall of Famer too. I mean, he was still probably considered the best defensive back to ever play the game. So everybody, a lot of kids do want to go play for him. A lot of kids want to go play for him. Just win the recruiting battles. That's regardless of what. James Franklin can't recruit like Deion Sanders because he's not Deion Sanders. Any other coaches we named that's in the Power 5, they can't recruit like Deion Sanders because they're not Deion Sanders. He might be brash. Yeah, he is. It is what it is. But at least he's true to who he is. And what they're doing out there, it is something that you got to say, I played for Deion Sanders. It's like somebody saying I played for Nick Saban or Philip Fulmer or Bobby Bowden.
A lot of people, I think, on our channel don't like Deion. I loved him because when I watched him as a Cowboy, he would talk, but he would always back it up. Every single time. So should Tennessee be worried about Deion losing guys to him like they did with Jordan Seaton? No,
you worry about the kids that you can get on your campus. Why would I worry about somebody else's coach? You worry about whoever else you can get. You about the kids that you can go after. If you put your energy into the negative side of it, or I don't want to worry about what he's doing. Hey, man, I'm going to recruit kids that I want anyway. Win the battle. Plain and simple. It ain't just Deion Sanders. You got Nick Saban. You also got to worry about the same guy that's in your division at Georgia. You got to. I mean, come on. You can't just be worried. If you're worried about those things, you're worried about the wrong things. Go out there and find you some kids that want to come play for you, but also have coaches on your staff that kids want to build relationships with. Ultimately, it's do your job. That's what's my motto, Dave. Do your job. Plain and simple. Go recruit the kid and win the battle. And it ain't just about the money. It's about the relationship you build with those kids. Hey, man, they don't trust you. They won't play for you. Plain and simple.
Yeah, Fred, but you got to admit, it does get a little harder for Tennessee when Ray Goff and Mike DeBose are not at Georgia and Alabama.
It does, but you know what that means? Make sure you got people on your staff that can recruit these same kids that you're trying to get. It's about building relationships. You got to have people who can build relationships. Plain and simple. You got to build the relationship with these kids. And if you can't do that, these are issues you will have. And regardless of what their motivation is to go to another school, ultimately, it comes down to what that relationship is.
Yep. Brad, did you know you're the man? You're the man.
I'm a man.
You are the man. Fred, so you think Tennessee's up for the Citrus Bowl and we shouldn't worry about Deion Sanders? As a whole, when we look back over this season, Fred, as the regular season, how would you grade it? Some would say disappointing at 8-4. I would argue that if that's the bottom, the floor, and at 8-4, then you're pretty darn good.
Well, I think we peaked a year ahead of what we thought we would have anyway. In my opinion, no one thought we would go and win 10 games last year, and we did. But I also look at the fact that we lost 4 guys that got drafted in the NFL, and expectations were high because of what we just did. You know what I mean? So I look at it and I say, I'm okay with 8-4 as long as we're not 6-6. I mean, I know we've been. We've been as a program. So do I think we're still going in the right direction? I'm okay with us going in the right direction. I think we're still going in the right direction.
Okay, I'm
okay with that.
Let me ask you this. So somebody posted this on our message board. James Franklin will always be a better head coach than Deion. Franklin doing what he did at Vanderbilt was miraculous. I don't know about miraculous. They played a bunch of high school teams to get to 6 wins. But anyway, so back sort of to the race issue. Both guys are African American. If James Franklin and Deion Sanders came to your door, and one's at Penn State, which is a better football program than Colorado, but if they came knocking on 18-year-old Fred's door with all that you know now and said, "Come play for me," who would you play for?
Deion Sanders, because he's my favorite football player of all time.
That's right.
He's my favorite football player of all time. Why do you think I wore the number 2 in college?
Yeah, I had not
because of Deion Sanders. Why did I play corner in high school? Because of Deion Sanders. But here's the thing, though. Quick story on James Franklin. I was doing our show. Myself and Terry Fair, we had a show called Double Coverage, and we were doing SEC Media Days. And I will never forget this. Derek Dooley was our head coach. Derek Dooley did not come and do an interview with us. We got a time slot for every coach. The only coach that didn't do the interview with us was Derek Dooley, and he was from our university. James Franklin stood back and waited for us. He saw Derek Dooley jump us, and he asked us if we could have his time. We told him yes. After having that 30-minute conversation with him, I told myself and Terry Fair both were like, wow, if that guy came to my house and sat in front of me and my parents, I would definitely give him an opportunity because of how it was amazing. I was like, this guy I can relate to. He took those 15 minutes that Derek Dooley gave up, and he sat there, he had a conversation with us, and it changed my whole perspective on James Franklin. So as a coach and as a guy who, could come in and recruit, he would be a guy that I would say, okay, I'll give you opportunity, simply because of what he did with us on that show.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this too. I was sent, I guess, about the same time. ESPN sent me to do something on Vanderbilt and how they were actually recruiting okay. And I don't care if he's black, white, yellow, whatever. He was very affable and engaging. All of the positive aspects in a coach you would like that Derek Dooley had none of.
Yeah, and Fred, there was and I just want to mention this too, because it's funny that Derek Dooley came up when we're talking about this, because you guys probably know, to a lot of people, Derek Dooley getting the hire at Tennessee over Kippy Brown before they even interviewed Kippy Brown. And Fred, you mentioned Kevin Sumlin was your cousin. Kevin Sumlin on paper was much more qualified than Derek Dooley for that job in 2000.
Absolutely.
And that was very suspicious to a lot of people. I think that, when we talk about race and head coaching, that he would get the job after a 17-20 season at Louisiana Tech, or record at Louisiana Tech, over Kevin Sumlin, or before they even interviewed Kippy Brown, who was the interim coach at the time.
Yeah, that was insane. I still don't understand that.
I remember where I was standing in front of the complex when we got a call that I got the tip that it was Dooley. I was like, Derek, who? All right, Fred.
But let me say this real quick. Coach Sumlin had called me and told me he was going to accept that job. I'm ecstatic. And then 24 hours later, we got Derek Dooley.
And then the year Dooley's fired, Sumlin is SEC Coach of the Year at Texas A&M, 2012.
I to this day, I still don't understand what happened. I don't
either.
Jimmy Haslam happened.
Fred, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We will talk to you soon. Fred White, ladies and gentlemen. If people want to get fantastic insurance with Allstate, who should they call in the Georgia area?
They can call Fred White. How about that? Let me not speak of myself in the third person. Let's do this again.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove.
I like that song, baby. That's my favorite right there. But yeah, man, you can give us a call at 770-381-0367. You can also look us up on any social media platform. Google Fred White Allstate. You guys can give us a call. We'd love to be able to help you out. You can actually do a quote right there for yourself online. Now, we might give you a phone call after, because we want to make sure you do the right things when it comes to the information that we need to get you the most accurate quote that we can give you. But we'd love to be able to help you with homeowners insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, and even small business insurance. So just give us a call.
Fred, I appreciate you, buddy. Have a fantastic weekend. Fred White, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, man, you guys have a good one. Go Vols.
Fred. That is Fred White. I cut off. It's Go Vols. My bad. Coming up, why Tennessee is safe and in good shape with Boo Carter, despite some media how do I say that? Sensationalism. Despite some of that, Tennessee's safe with Boo Carter. Don't worry. And this day in Vol history is pretty darn good. It includes the cops. I'm just going to tell you that. In 2 minutes, he's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
We believe every day is a good day to be thirsty. With free samples on draft and lots of flavors to choose from, Tennessee Cider Company prepares a hard cider that's easy to enjoy. Some say it's the signature cider of the South. Others say it's the cure to your craving. They all say you'll savor every sip. The area of Gatlinburg has so much to offer, and so does Tennessee Cider Company. Add us to your list for shopping and fun experiences. You'll be glad you made the trip. Find our cidery in the Mountain Mall on the Gatlinburg Parkway. Sip smart. Sip the good stuff. Sip Tennessee Cider Company. Thirsty yet? Doors open at 10 a.m.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren, asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
Wabu Carter's safe. Don't worry about it. He's going to be a Vol. He's committed to be a Vol. With Jordan Seaton committing, everybody's saying, no, Boo Carter's leaving. Doing this, he's doing that. You're going to lose Boo Carter. I'm going to tell you why he's safe, and other people are trying to jerk your chain a little bit. At least that's what I think. But it is Cruton. On this day,
trying to jerk your chain.
Yeah, on this date in Vol football history, follow them on Facebook. Love it. I'm going to go back a couple of days, if I may. And it's brought to you by Rick Terry. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. They're looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. On this date in Vol football history, December 4th, 1965. Score tied 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. It's exciting, but then Tennessee began to dominate. Comfortably went up 20-7 at the half. But in this game that would feature a crazy second half, UCLA came roaring back to score 21 straight points to take a 28-20 lead at the end of the third quarter. And it's time for one of my favorites. The Vols stormed back to take a lead late, 37-34 on a Dewey Warren pass to Austin Denny. I love me some Dewey Warren, I'll tell you that. Tennessee ended up winning the game as the play ended. A UCLA player running down the sideline, hit a Tennessee player with a bit of a forearm. Okay, so then we got Booby Petrella, who intercepted the ball near the Tennessee goal line. He was hit with the forearm. He required 12 stitches from the hit, but the Vols secured the win. However, Tennessee State troopers had to clear a path for the players to walk after exiting. That's a pretty insane game there, wouldn't you say? Tennessee, UCLA, and Dewey Warren clearly one of the all-time greats. And you've said this before, which never really registered with me. He was kind of the first pro-style quarterback for the University of Tennessee.
He was the first to really air it out. This was the game. I'm actually I actually know more about this game than you realize, Dave.
I knew you would be. I'd like to stump you once.
This was the game so UCLA's head coach was a man named Tommy Prothro. And this was Tennessee's breakout year under Doug Dickey. They finished in the top 10 after going 4-5-1. It was their best year since the 56 season when they went 10-0 with Johnny Majors. And it was the arrival of Dewey Warren, the emergence of the Dickey era, if you will. Tommy Prothro was so mad at the refs after that loss. Remember, he's from Memphis. He came out and he said, "I'm ashamed of being a Southerner," because the refs, I think, were SEC refs in that game. And the game was played at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. It was the first year of the Liberty Bowl. As you and I both know, I don't think the Liberty Bowl has changed since that first year at all. It still looks like that stadium built in 1965.
It's the only time I've been late for a game because I got stuck in a group. There were literally thousands of people trying to get through one little bitty gate. There wasn't a media gate. It's the only time I've been late for a game. John Adams said, don't do that again. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's luckily finally just recently, this is big news. Fred Smith, the CEO of FedEx, just put up $50 million to help with renovations to the Liberty Bowl. The university is going to take control of it from the city, so finally it might actually be a decent stadium again.
You mentioned that before, and I kind of looked into that. $50 million doesn't sound like a lot to me.
Well, no, it's not just $50 million. It was $50 million, and the boosters are, because it's going back. This university is going to take it from the stadium. Other boosters are going to match with $50 million. Plus, the city is allocating, I think, $120 million on top of that. The sticking point with this was the city got a bunch of money from the state, and they were trying to figure out how to use that to renovate the Liberty Bowl and also renovate the FedEx Forum, because if they don't upgrade the FedEx Forum soon, the Grizzlies are going to leave Memphis. And so they had to come up with a lot of money on both sides. So Fred Smith putting in the $50 million helps with the Liberty Bowl, but they got to find $550 million for the FedEx Forum. And honestly, I think if you're the city of Memphis, you should care more about the Grizzlies than the Tigers, because the Tigers are never going to be Power 5. Sorry, guys, not happening.
All right, so it's more than I need to know about Memphis athletics. But anyway, Boo Carter. Let me start with this. It is easy to provide clickbait and say that he is going to Colorado because Jordan Seaton is going to Colorado, and Deion Sanders has this social media push, and that you can come up with all kinds of ways to twist Boo Carter messages on social media. If you didn't listen to the show yesterday, then you missed Stephen Argus of the Chattanooga Times Free Press, who said that Boo Carter is not only on board with Tennessee, but actually went to Colorado and recruited for Tennessee. So I think this is pretty easy clickbait. Now, it is recruiting. So is there always a chance that things could change? Yeah, there's a chance that Josh Heupel could be hired as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Like, seriously, I mean, that's within the realm of possibility. So things could change. But right now, what percentage would you put it at that Boo Carter remains a Vol? Because we want to bring you newsy news, and we have opinions, and we're going to share that. And we realize that's the hot way to get clicks and everything, but we're going to be genuine. I'm going to tell you what I honestly think. I told you that I honestly didn't think Joe Milton could play at a high level. I think I was proven right. I have questions about Tennessee's motivation in the Citrus Bowl, but we'll get to that at another time. I'm not concerned about Boo Carter. I think he's a Vol. I think that when you look at this from the surface, family gets to come to see him play a lot easier. If there's NIL money involved, Tennessee can match it because Colorado has more holes to fill, I would think. Tennessee also has a bigger budget. So what percentage, Caleb, would you say Boo Carter is committed to Tennessee? 100% being he just signed his letter. Or they don't sign anymore, they would enroll, but you know what I mean.
It's less than 1%. I'm so sure that he's staying at Tennessee. Man, I wish I started a sportsbook company setting odds for recruiting, because I would set up odds right now that would show that would give you great odds on Boo Carter if you took Boo Carter to go to Colorado. I would put it at like plus 1,000 for him to go to Colorado. And then a bunch of Colorado people would throw me some money thinking he's going to Colorado because they would take that bet. And then I would just walk away, just swimming in cash because Boo Carter is not going to Colorado. What scared everybody was Boo Carter yesterday sent out an Instagram story after Seton committed. He tagged Seton and it said, he tagged Seton and he said, you know what we said, and then a handshake. Guys, that means nothing. You can be friends with people on the recruiting trail all the time, right? And and you can support recruits going out other places all the time. You know what Boo Carter also shared yesterday on Twitter? He shared an Instagram story by Nico Iamaleava showing him as Mr. Football in the state of Tennessee. Leaving that part out. And also, Boo Carter, he's planning to graduate December the 15th. That's a week away. And then he plans to early enroll in Tennessee and begin bowl practices with them. You know how quickly your plans would have to change if you all of a sudden decide to flip to Colorado now? Like, Dave, given early enrollee status now and given bowl practices, I know recruiting is, round the clock, 24 hours, things change all the time. But if you're doing that's a lot of changing in plans, isn't it? To all of a sudden say, oh no, now I'm flipping to Colorado, even though you're already making plans, aren't you, to graduate, and you're already setting the stage for you to early enroll at Tennessee.
No, I just don't see it. I think it's a grandstanding thing. It's a way to get clicks by some people. We want you to be a part of the program. We want as many people to be a part of the program each and every day. And 10 years from now, we're not going to try to get 1,000 extra clicks by writing that Boo Carter is going to Colorado, because I don't think that's the case. It is time for 4 Downs, where we talk a little bit of recruiting, as we absolutely love to do all the time. And it's brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Spas. Their showroom in Athens, open with the best hot tubs and spas in the market. Delivery, yes, they can do that. Complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. And that's Dynasty Pools and Spas. Discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that you can save a ton, and no one will ever notice. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastyspas.com or stop by Athens in their incredible showroom.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, so let's jump in the spa with Cooper Mays.
Coop here, first down.
Thank you. The Seton factor in the Boo Carter thing, do you think it actually has any impact on Carter's decision? And we both think he's going to end up at Tennessee, but zero impact or any? That's the only 2 options I'm giving you.
Zero. First of all, even if Boo Carter in the less than 0.01% chance was going to flip to Colorado, it wouldn't be because of Jordan Seton. This would have been something that was already planned like a while ago. So no, zero factor whatsoever. Seton is not going to impact Boo Carter's decision.
Okay, now to be fair to the story, Coop, what down?
Cooper Mays here, second down.
If he were playing Tennessee, how big of a hit would it be if he flipped days before and went to Colorado? Scale of 1 to 10, how big of a hit? Being an in-state guy, being a 5-star guy.
It would certainly be a hit to me because I just staked my whole claim that.
No, we would both look like complete imbeciles.
We would look so stupid.
But nobody else is going to go and tell you that. And I'm giving it for the record. There's always a 5% chance that a kid flips. Okay. So I'm going to put it at 10%, which basically means the very minuscule chance for me. So that's what I tip. That's what I use when people ask me about guys that I think are 100% committed. I give it a 5% chance. Something could happen. A 10% chance is where I would put Boo Carter. But boy, it would be bad if he were to flip for some reason. It would be really bad. It makes me want to move on to 3rd down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here, 3rd down.
Is the media clickbaiting for Boo Carter? I don't want to call anybody out in particular. And it's not just clicks. It's listeners, viewers. It's all that. Is the media guilty of trying to make this into a story?
Yes, they are, but they do this with recruiting all the time. How many times, Dave, do you see rumors swirl about a player that you're covering it and you're like, this is not true. I know it's not true, but because of one commitment or one movement on the trail, like the rumors swirl all the time. Colorado on the recruiting trail. Remember, Deion Sanders' whole selling point of rebuilding Colorado was his name could help recruit nationally. So whenever Deion Sanders is involved in the recruiting of a top prospect now, it's going to swirl. You're going to hear a lot of talk. So I think that's where this is. You're right. There was a national reporter who covers Colorado recruiting who tweeted out yesterday, Boo Carter flip, ? Didn't even suggest inside sources on it, which is fine, but I think that's what triggered all of this. And so,
well, and I don't mind saying it. It's Josh Newberg, who I think does a good job. And I don't know that he wrote that headline. We didn't write headlines, which is why Caleb and
he tweeted it out.
Oh, okay. Well, then he did it. That would surprise me. Maybe we would have Josh,
but he didn't,
or maybe
he
no,
didn't
maybe
suggest he has any. He didn't suggest he has any sources, and he put it as a question mark, meaning he was being very honest and saying that's very much implying I don't have any sources or evidence of this, but the Seton does. So it would only be based off the Seton commitment, and I don't think the Seton commitment proves anything. So I don't think Boo Carter is going anywhere. He's staying, guys. Boo Carter is headed to Knoxville and if he's not, then he didn't just play Tennessee. He didn't just play us. He played the reporters that are closest to him. You ask anybody that has actually been on the trail with Boo Carter, and he's given off every vibe that he's staying at Tennessee.
Yeah, I would suggest listening to Stephen Hargis, who we had on yesterday with Chattanooga Times Free Press. Derek says, "I'll go toxic if we lose Boo." I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're all good there. And then we'll go to fourth down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. Who's the prospect we should be talking about? Now that Seton's off the board, now that we believe Carter's 110% Tennessee, we're not going to try to clickbait you and that sort of thing. Who's the young man that's out there that we should be talking about?
Now,
remember, recruiting in our world, you can include transfer portal if you would like.
Yes, the obvious one is naturally going to be Walter Nolan. I've been on him from the start. Most guys are still pretty much set to go elsewhere. Now, if Tennessee wants to flip, there may be I wonder, Dave, do you think they've given up on Amari Jefferson even though he's committed to Alabama?
It does feel that way. It feels like this class is sort of settling with, not that they are settling on who they have, but it's settling like a cake, so to speak. And that's where it is.
Yeah. And because the other guy that I would say they should be going heavily after, I don't think they're going to get, and that's Marcellus Barnes, also out of Chattanooga, but all signs point to him going to Georgia. All signs point to him going to Georgia at this point. So I don't know who is their top best target after Seton in this class that could really give it a spike. They may have to settle for it being a number 12 class, not top 10, but you can offset that with the transfer portal, and there are some players coming back. So again, remember guys, Tennessee, I thought 2024 would be the first class that comes together. The NCAA did not end its investigation into Tennessee until August. So,
well, and let's put this out there too. Why are you worried about Boo Carter when Braylon Staley has put out social media post and he was with a South Carolina assistant coach? I mean, to me, that would be the bigger concern between him and Boo. I mean, that's the guy that people should be talking about. And
could you imagine flipping from Tennessee to South Carolina right now, though?
No, I couldn't. And I don't think that's a loss either, but I would talk more about him than I would Boo.
Yeah, I would too. I agree. I would talk a lot more about Braylon.
My ratio is 5% not going to flip. 10%, there's always a chance. And then I would say Staley, 15, 20%. I mean, that seems he seems more likely to go to South Carolina and stay close to home than to go 2 time zones away and play for Colorado.
Again, and recruiting is oftentimes about need, because if Braylon Staley does flip, that would kill Tennessee's class ranking worse. But guys, they're so Dave, I know you disagree, but I think they're fine. If he flipped, it would be because he's worried he's not going to play at Tennessee.
Yeah. And thank you, Travis. Travis absolutely got the point. I don't like the fact we get trolled. I appreciate that because you see through exactly what we're trying to do here, and that is bring you news. I'll give you the different levels of news because I happen to be an old school reporter. So, when you're a long time friend of the program, hit like and subscribe. We have reported that there was a players meeting in September that was held by Joe Milton. We have reported that Cooper Mays would not go through senior day festivities. We have reported things and we have broken news, and we will continue to do so. I've also told you that I am hearing, but I don't tweet out I'm hearing because that looks like a report. So go ahead and click the like and subscribe button now if you want real news and not people guessing, because I will tell you what I'm hearing. And I share things on the show that we don't have on the site sometimes, because I will say this is what someone has told me from within Tennessee's program. I do that pretty often, don't I, Caleb? And I will continue to do that. But if we want to come out and report something, we're going to report it. So I don't have any reason to believe that you should be worried about Luke Carter. So that, again, is 4 Downs, brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Spas right there in Athens. Absolutely love it. And then Caleb brought this up, and he got you talk about trolling or baiting. Maybe this is what Caleb's doing, I thought. And then everybody on the message board agreed with him. And it was Derek who brought it up in our 5 favorite minutes, which is soon to come. And that is all about you. And we will let you lead the discussion. But that's what the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay, so set this up for me. You said yesterday that Nico's going to win 10 Super Bowls and he is going to be in the Hall of Fame, and they're going to forego the 5 years of eligibility that you have to wait. They're going to let him go straight in. That's what you said about Nico, wasn't it? The way I remember it is he specifically said, Caleb said, yes, the 5-year of eligibility rule will not apply to Nico.
Iamaleava.
Isn't that what you said?
Basically, I mean, I don't know why he's not in the Hall of Fame now, guys. Okay.
Okay. Set this
like,
up. Set up
Nico Iamaleava is going to dethrone Taylor Swift as Times Person of the Year next year. Okay. And I love Taylor. I mean, I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. But next year, Nico Iamaleava, I cannot wait for his Eras tour, guys.
We got a lot of Swifties in this crew. All right. So somehow Jackson Ross ties into Nico.
I got the idea on this yesterday because Jackson Ross, we want to send him a shout out. He was named All SEC. He was named the All SEC freshman punter. So he was on the All SEC freshman team as a punter. So Punter U is back on Rocky Top, baby. Tennessee is Punter U again, and
that's great.
And it's not because of a cold quit this time. So we got to give Jackson.
Basically, Tommy Townsend's had a great NFL career. If you just stop by for a while, if I were a punter, I'd take an official visit to Tennessee and then pick my school, knowing that I had stepped foot on campus and I will be a great punter in the NFL.
That's a great point because he lost his job to Trevor Daniel, who punted in the NFL. Chad Cunningham punted in the NFL. Matt Dart. I mean, Tennessee is punter, you guys, okay? And I hate punting, so y'all know how I feel about that. But
all right, give me back to
Iamaleava.
With that news and with the Heisman this weekend, I was thinking about future Tennessee awards, and I was thinking about Nico Iamaleava in the Heisman next year. And I asked myself, is it Heisman or bust for Nico Iamaleava next year? And I'm going to say yes, it's Heisman or bust for Nico next year.
No, it's insane.
It's Heisman or bust. If Nico doesn't win the Heisman, Josh Heupel should be fired because they will never reach the next level. It is Heisman or bust, provided he's healthy, provided everybody's healthy and there aren't crazy injuries. It is Heisman or bust for Nico Iamaleava.
Okay, you realize it sounds crazy.
No,
you have to get. No, you have to go into it knowing that it sounds crazy. For anybody to say Heisman or bust, for anybody, if Caleb Williams comes back and they pick up 4 receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr. transfers to Southern Cal, and Lincoln Riley stays instead of the NFL, to still say anybody wins the Heisman or bust is insane. Right?
No.
You're not giving me that?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Nope.
Okay. I think that's insane. I think a first-year starter is absolutely insano. And Smoky Mountain Red says, Caleb is serious when Swift enters the conversation. Right. It just changes the tune.
Well,
You
Nico
really
needs to be
believe
successful
this?
swiftly.
Yeah, that's good. You really believe this? I will tell you this. Yes, SC Scout guy. I hope Caleb is joking, but he's not. If he is one of the top 3 quarterbacks at the end of next year in the SEC, Tennessee will have won 10 games. And I think they will do that. I think that will happen. I think he will be top 3 in the SEC, and they'll win 10 games. That is my floor. That's my floor. I think it will get better. I could potentially get better than that. Obviously, we're not going to do predictions now. We want to see a lot. I think he's that good. I'm hearing he's that good. I'm hearing it's not close. So I think he'll be very, very good. As we discussed yesterday briefly, I think you need the hype. And I'm not sure that he's going to have that unless he plays in the Citrus Bowl.
Okay. So let's break down Josh Heupel real quick, because this is all about Josh Heupel. Dave, if Hendon Hooker didn't get hurt last year, he's going to New York, right?
Yes. No question.
Josh Heupel was hired because he was a quarterback guru who turns quarterbacks into superstars. And he did that with Hendon Hooker. And that's his calling card, right? What he does with quarterbacks.
Yes. Go ahead.
He staked his whole future as a quarterback guru. He staked the whole future of Tennessee football on the best recruit he ever got at quarterback, in Nico Iamaleava, right?
Yes. He didn't even play him this year because he wanted to make sure everything was ready to go. And goodness knows he didn't want to get him hurt or didn't want him to get gun shy. Go ahead.
So he did all of that. A quarterback guru whose whole system is based on giving quarterbacks gaudy stats, who staked his whole future of a program on one quarterback. If he can't win if he and Nico can't win a Heisman for Nico next year, then he's coming up short on the one thing he's good at. So on the one thing that he staked everything on. This should be it. This is Nico should be better than Hendon Hooker. We believe that, right? Hendon Hooker wasn't Heupel's guy. Nico is. Okay? Everything comes down to Nico. Everything is staked on Nico succeeding. Okay? This is like in 1994 when Tom Osborne got Tommy Frazier. If he wasn't going to win a national championship with Tommy Frazier, he was never going to win a national championship. And everybody knew that. Okay? If Josh Heupel can't turn Nico into a Heisman winner, not contender, a Heisman winner, Josh Heupel will not be cut out for the job. If Steve Spurrier can get Danny Warfel to win a Heisman as an offensive guru, and we're calling Josh Heupel the Steve Spurrier of today, Nico, I expect 50 touchdowns, 4,500 yards next year through the air. I'm saying, and by the way, also, you told me this, Heupel likes stats. He purposely tries to get his quarterback stats.
That's a great point I hadn't thought about. All right, so Mead Drinker puts this question up. How many games will it take for Nico to put college football on notice? I'm going to answer that right now. Let me tell you about Don Self. Customer service still matters. Call 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net. He's a State Farm agent, and his team, they take customer service seriously for well over 40 years. That's almost older than Nico's parents. They have built their business and reputation on taking care of their customers. It might actually be Greater Chattanooga area. Don Self. There is no other. Don Self. State Farm. Greater Chattanooga area. donself.net. How many games does it take for Nico to put college football on notice? Uno. And it's called Hammering the Mocks in the opener. Sunday,
Sunday, September the 1st.
Sunday, September the 1st will be one of your favorite days for those that are Tennessee fans on here. Will be one of your favorite days as a Tennessee football fan. Because those of you that are younger than me, so I'll be maybe 50 next year. Those of you that are 35 or younger, which would include you, Caleb, that will be in your adult life one of your favorite days, Tennessee football fans, to be a Tennessee Big Orange UT fan, because he's going to light it up against the Mocs. I will go ahead and tell you that Nico is going to throw for over 400 yards, will score at least 5 touchdowns, and his completion percentage, here's the difference. His completion percentage will be 70 plus. And we're not going to have any questions unless Tennessee's receivers can't catch about throwing a heavy football or about accuracy. If you agree, hit like and subscribe. Doesn't matter if you agree, I'm right.
There's two layers to this, and I'm with you. That's when he puts the college football world on notice within college football circles. You want to know when he becomes the Heisman frontrunner? You ready for this, Dave? When he becomes the Heisman frontrunner and never lets it go? Want to know the game? Ready?
Yes.
It's going to be week 4, guys. Tennessee opens SEC play week 4 at Oklahoma. That game is going to be that game will be the centerpiece of that week. If you guys have looked at the SEC schedule, the whole college football world will be watching that game because it's the best SEC game of the week by far. Maybe the best national game of the week, and it's Josh Heupel going back to Oklahoma. Everybody's going to be watching that game. And I believe Nico's going to light it up against Oklahoma because I know Brett Venables is a good defensive coach, but it hasn't translated to Oklahoma since he's been there, honestly, as a head coach. So I think Nico is going to light up Brent Venables in front of the national college football world. And on Sunday, September the 22nd, and on Monday, September the 23rd, you will hear First Take and on Undisputed and all these national TV shows talk about this Nico Iamaleava is a heck of a quarterback. This dude is special. And he will become the Heisman frontrunner that day, and he's not giving it up. It's happening.
I'll tell you what somebody in the program told me yesterday. I can't remember if I mentioned this. I asked somebody, I said, would you bet a week's pay he's going to be very good? I said, I bet a month's pay. And this is the guy who's being objective. Bet a month's pay he will be very, very, very good. That's pretty strong.
That is. We're
not talking about chicken feed money anyway for the record.
Guys, here's a story for you. When Nico arrived last year as an early enrollee, Taven Jackson, Josh Heupel's first signing at quarterback, immediately entered the transfer portal. He knew day one he wasn't going to be as good as Nico in the future. And that's saying something. And from everything I've heard, Dave, not only was Nico great when he arrived, he's actually gotten better since then. So it wasn't like he had a low ceiling that he had already reached.
Now, and as far as this post by Ed, it's fair. Still going to need an offensive coordinator, offensive line, and guys that can get open and catch the ball. It's not about Nico. First of all, the offensive coordinator is Josh Heupel. Well, I mean, if you want to get mad at Joey Halsley and say that he's the reason Tennessee struggled, that's fine. But it was execution. It was not game planning. It wasn't any of that stuff. Josh Heupel is your offensive coordinator. So if you don't like the offensive coordinator, you don't like the head coach. That's a fact. Offensive line depends on Cooper Mays, but the offensive line could have 4 or 5 starters returning, right? So they could be very good. And they were good when Cooper was healthy. Hopefully we link up with Cooper soon to get his thoughts on what he's going to do as far as his final season of eligibility. But I think there's a good chance Tennessee keeps Cooper on campus. Now, the receivers we've addressed. They need a number one. So I will definitely give Ed that. Ed, that's a great point. But I just kind of feel like they'll find it. And I still believe to some extent, this system is going to make receivers, quarterbacks, all offensive players probably a little bit better than they are. We went too far that way with Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker. We went a little too far, didn't we? The system.
We did. I thought Jalen Hyatt was a total product of the system. I didn't think he was.
I did too.
Right.
I did too. But with the right talent, it's going to make everybody a little bit better. Squirrel White's going to be the guy that's going to have just a mega year next year.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely going to have a mega year. Nico throwing him. And by the way, I'm telling you, it's either going to be Brew McCoy or Mike Matthews. Mike Matthews is going to be a freshman All-American next year if Brew McCoy doesn't come back. And yeah, this is
freshman All-American though. I can roll with that. It's your Heisman talk. Hip House.
Nico is winning the Heisman, and it is a bust. Josh Heupel's a bust if he doesn't win it next year. If everybody's healthy.
Gosh, I don't know if he's saying that jokingly or not. I do what I can, guys. The Hip House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD and Delta products. Go to hiphouseChat2ts.com. hiphouseChat2ts.com. Support our sponsors. We have a great group of people and businesses that work with integrity and work with quality products and quality workmanship. Hemp House Chat is one of those. hemphousechat.com, across the board. Please support our sponsors. Call them, say, Off the Hook Sports sent me. I needed HVAC. I needed some hemp. I needed some sports treasures, whatever it is. And they bring you our 5 favorite minutes. And that's when you get to take over the message board, and we'll talk about what you want to talk about. Now, for instance, Derek brought up the Nico issue yesterday, and that turned into like a thing today. So your thoughts across the board as Tennessee does face a pretty staunch opponent on the basketball court that we haven't had much of an opportunity to address. Your thoughts on Tennessee, Illinois?
My thoughts on Tennessee, Illinois, personally?
Yes.
I haven't really scouted Illinois yet. It's a good top 25 matchup for the Vols. It's a CBS noon matchup. It's going to be hard to read into this because, look, guys, for those who don't know college basketball, it's worse than college football when it comes to noon games. Noon tip-offs on Saturday, I mean, you can just be so flat for those games, and particularly in December. And I almost chuck those when I use it for analysis. I don't know if you do, Dave.
Scott's got a good one. So can we definitely say hype burn this season for Joe? Yes, I do think that's the case, Scott. Bring Trooper Taylor back in all caps, Travis says. Yeah, let's go ahead and attach him. Go ahead. Talk about Trooper Taylor. He's one of the probably 2 or 3 people that I've covered that coaches or players I would consider a friend. So he'll get a kick out of this. Would he consider coming back? Certainly. So I'll attach him to Twitter. Maybe he'll tune in right now. But help me by talking about Trooper Taylor so I can send this tweet out.
If he was promoted to offensive
coordinator. Well, who is he? For those that don't know, it's been a lot of years.
Okay, so Trooper Taylor, for those who don't know, was a 4-year assistant coach at Tennessee. Only 4 years, 04 to 07. And he coached running backs for 2 years, and then he coached receivers. Trooper Taylor had the magic touch I had never seen for a position coach, because the minute he became Tennessee's running backs coach, there had been a chatter for a couple of years that Tennessee was not the running team that it was in the 90s. Trooper Taylor takes over. They immediately have 2,000-yard rushers. The only time they ever had that in a season. 2 years later, they decide to move him to receivers coach. Robert Meacham has arguably the greatest single season ever for a Tennessee football receiver, setting record after record. The next year, with Robert Meacham gone and no really good receivers, Trooper Taylor turned Lucas Taylor into a 1,000-yard receiver, which to me is still laughable because Lucas Taylor should not have been a 1,000-yard receiver. Am I right, Dave? Like, that's ridiculous to think about. And
yes. And the other thing about Trooper Taylor is you talk about wanting maybe another offensive coordinator. Again, this is Josh Heupel's system, but Trooper Taylor knows the run box because he coached the running backs, and he knows the passing trees because he coached receivers. So that's a very unique set of skills. Most guys haven't done that.
Yes, that's true. And
so you kind of have another offensive coordinator on the staff in a way.
And when David Cutcliffe left for the Duke job in 07, Trooper Taylor was a prime candidate to get that job. Kind of turned out, I don't know what I think he couldn't wait for Fulmer to offer, so he went ahead and took the Oklahoma State job. But I think had Fulmer
I can tell you exactly what happened. You want me to tell you exactly what happened?
Yeah, tell me what happened. I'm ready to go.
He gave Dave Clawson the OC job.
Well, I thought Trooper left before Clawson got it, though.
No, we knew. Yeah, we knew. He knew he wasn't going to get it.
Okay.
So he knew he wasn't going to get it. And so that's why he went to Oklahoma State. That's why Randall Cobb went to Kentucky. Boom.
And so
did I just blow your mind?
I kind of had a hunch that was possible, but yes, you did blow my mind. But Trooper, if he gets the job, Dave, let's call it what it is. If he gets the job and Randall Cobb's at Tennessee, this is a great what if in Tennessee football history. Philip Fulmer surpasses General Neyland in all-time wins.
Only 24 away or so.
Yeah, Philip Fulmer was not fired in 2008. And so I think Trooper deserved it. He went to Oklahoma State, and that was their breakout year under Mike Gundy when he was offensive coordinator. It was Mike Gundy's offense, but it doesn't matter. Trooper Taylor would have kept Cutcliffe's offense. And I know this because I remember I was covering the team as a student at the time, but I did know, talking to players, that Cutcliffe kind of took Trooper under his wing as almost an understudy. Dave, like Cutcliffe was trying to groom Trooper to be an offensive coordinator for the future.
First person David Cutcliffe called when you thought that David Cutcliffe might get the head coaching job at Tennessee to replace Derek Dooley was?
It was Trooper?
Trooper Taylor.
Would have been Trooper as offensive coordinator with David Cutcliffe as head coach. Yeah, Trooper he would have Fulmer. That was a big mess up by Philip Fulmer to not promote Trooper Taylor. And Fulmer always promoted from within. That was what was so crazy about it. He always promoted from within. You made Randy Sanders offensive coordinator. Talk about not cut out for offensive coordinator at the time.
You're right, and they were overly. I thought they stuck with Larry Slade, the defensive backs coach, and Pat Washington, the receivers coach, way too long.
Way too long. I remember the 05 year with Pat Washington. I don't think any Tennessee, that was one of the worst. I know it was the quarterback issue, but Tennessee receivers were no good either that year. And that's it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Trooper Taylor, man, what would have happened if Tennessee had promoted Trooper Taylor as offensive coordinator in 07 or 08?
Travis, the best topic of our 5 favorite minutes wins a t-shirt. I think you've already got one, but we'll hook you up with another one. There is my email, David Off the Hook Sports. So just go ahead and shoot that to me, and I'll be glad to hook you up. It is the Christmas season, so maybe you got somebody you can give it to. It says Hooker across the front, so it'll be fun to open on Christmas morning. And I'll remind you that the book is available. The book, yes, Celebrate 98. If you have a Tennessee fan in your family that would like to read about the greatest team in the modern era of Tennessee football, all you have to do is click right there. You can take control of your Christmas future. Even with some gift packs, multiple books will take care of you. It's Celebrate 98. A look behind Tennessee's 1998 national championship. We've got affordable prices up there for the holidays. Maybe it's Hanukkah. Maybe you're a Jewish Tennessee fan. Whatever the case may be, we would certainly appreciate it. And a lot of work put into the book, and we think you'll enjoy it. Again, it's right there. It's almost gift-giving time. Christmas is here. Merry Christmas to you and yours. And go ahead and get on board right now with our Celebrate 98 book. The link is right down below. We'd greatly appreciate you taking a look and thinking about that as something to stick under the tree, because it's something that will just keep giving and giving. All right, there we go. We haven't brought Trooper Taylor back yet, but it's early. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Off the Hooks.
We got to give one shout out.
Oh, yes. Shout
before
out.
we go.
Yes, shout.
Smoky Mountain Red had the comment of the day, though. And we mentioned it on our message board. I can't find it now, but Smoky Mountain Red earlier said Dooley wasn't even the roommate of a famous basketball player when he got the job. And I'm like, that is the funniest one I've seen in a while.
Was that a Buzz Peterson reference?
Buzz Peterson reference. Because Buzz was hired because he was Michael Jordan's roommate, which is hilarious. Dooley was partially hired because he was Vince Dooley's son. I don't know. Which one's worse? The son of a legend or the roommate
I don't
of a
really
legend?
think Buzz Peterson even knew who Michael Jordan was. I don't think they met. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Off